You are listening to the Pot.Live podcast. I'm your host, Lenny G, and this podcast is going to teach you all about what's happening, what the trends are, the latest news, the thought leaders, the business leaders in the cannabis industry. As this industry moves forward at a rapid pace, everyone needs to adapt. Everyone needs to change to what's going on. And we're going to bring you those guests. What are they doing to make their business successful? What are they doing to get their product out there? How are they getting exposure? How are they dealing with all the changing laws? That's what Pot.Live is going to be all about. And make sure you visit Pot.Live, download the app, go to the website, and you will see all of the digital media assets from articles, videos, podcasts, everything. The latest news and trends will all be at Pot.Live. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the show. Check out the new MJ.com. Connecting the culture, silencing the stigma. The only destination online where you can educate, locate, entertain, and shop. You have VIP memberships. You've got a full shop and marketplace. Industry Insider gives you all original content to our blog, all the best articles from thought leaders around the world. You've got medical information, the ability to get your medical marijuana card. You've got delivery. You've got all the digital media content you would need. You've got brand partners, business solutions, locate your dispensaries, find info on any strain you can imagine, play games with our 420 trivia game, download the free app, check out MJ.com. All right, listeners, we are back again. Another episode of the Pot.Live podcast. Today, I have a special guest, Miss Margot Micallef, CEO of GABY Inc., and she also just founded Gabriella's Kitchen after Margot's sister, unfortunately, her name was Gabriella, was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Together, they embarked on a soulful journey toward health and wellness. Today, Margot carries on their mission in her sister's memory with joy and intention to help others achieve their best quality of life. Gabriella's Kitchen recently announced that all entrees will be infused with hemp to boost nutritional value. Margot, welcome to the show. Can't wait to dive in.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Excellent. So why don't you give us a little background on who Margot is and what GABY Inc. is, what Gabriella's Kitchen is. Let's hit them all one by one. First, why don't you give us a little bit of your personal journey?
Okay, so I started my professional career as a lawyer a number of years ago, and I became a partner in a large law firm here in Canada. And then I got recruited to join a large telecommunications firm, and I ran their mergers and acquisitions and founded their legal department. I did that for about 10 years, and I did about $15 billion worth of transactions. So I learned quite a bit about the M&A field, and I developed a lot of really good relationships in the capital markets. So after my 10-year sojourn with the telecom company, I started my own merchant banking business. And through that business, raised capital, invested my own capital, and advised companies in a variety of different businesses, including radio broadcasting, publishing, real estate, food manufacturing, food service, and intellectual technology. So I really consider myself becoming an entrepreneur or really, feeding my entrepreneurial spirit throughout my journey, but particularly when I started my merchant banking business. And that is how I got to Gabriella's Kitchen. When my sister and I decided to change our lifestyle and move into a healthier way of eating, we couldn't find products in the market that were really favorable to our decision. So being entrepreneurial, we just decided we would do this ourselves. So we hired a chef and started working towards creating products that were delicious and nutritious and really functional and really very high powered in terms of the nutritional component that they brought, with the view that people would be able to improve their quality of life. Well, everything came to a head and really intensified when around that same time, my sister got diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer and was given only a few months to live, and then told by her doctors that there was nothing they could do for her because it was too far developed. So the only option she had was to embrace the lifestyle decision that we had made and to look at alternative therapies, which is what we did. So we ended up keeping her alive for 5 additional years. which was a surprise to all of her doctors. And she had really great quality of life. She was virtually asymptomatic for the entire period of time, up until the very last few months before she passed away. So we learned quite a bit through that journey. Those 5 years really taught us that what you put in your body really does make a difference, and how you treat yourself and how you live your life really does make a difference, and it can enhance the quality of your life. So it really empowered us to want to help empower the rest of the world to take control of the quality of their life. What we found when we were going through this journey was that we were really living a microcosm of what was going on at a macro level in the world. And that is that the medical profession has done a really good job of turning terminal illnesses into chronic illnesses, but overall has done a really poor job of helping people cope with those illnesses, or really improving the quality of lives of the people that they care for. So it's really incumbent upon each one of us to take control of our own journey, take control of our own life, and really find ways of enhancing our own quality of life, because nobody's going to do that for us. So that's really what we're all about, is empowering the world, empowering individual people to choose the life they want, and giving them things and food, ingredients, products, tools that they can use themselves to enhance the quality of their life. And we're looking to do that with both cannabis-infused products, with hemp-infused products, and with traditional products that are uninfused.
Wow. I mean, that's some story. And I love that you took a really tough situation and put a completely positive spin, message, passion to do good for other people, and use your sister's memory as an amazing experience rather than just a sad experience. You know, we all go through tough times in our life, and for you to do what you've done going through that, man, kudos to you. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that story.
My pleasure. I mean, it's all about making a difference in the world, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it starts with yourself. So I'm sure that you had to get yourself in that positive mindset, not to get into a spiritual journey here, but you had to get yourself into a positive frame of mind to help others based on your experience. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And in fact, what happened was, you know, my sister was running the business when she was alive. And when she passed away, I was so grief-stricken. I had lost my business partner, my best friend, and my sister, that I really did nothing with the business for a couple of years. I put a fellow in there to kind of babysit things, and all he did was ask me for money, and I just kept giving him money. And, you know, he basically just kept the business alive, but barely. And I was looking for a way during that period of time to honor my sister. And so I did some fundraising. I joined some cancer boards. You know, I tried a bunch of different things, and nothing was really resonating. And then one day I had the revelation that the way to honor her was to build this company as a legacy to her, and to share her journey and what we learned from her journey with the rest of the world, so that everybody could benefit from what we learned and from that journey. And so I ended up firing the guy that I had hired. I took over as CEO. I invested $2 million of my own capital. I raised additional capital. I changed the name of the company to Gabriella's Kitchen. We're now called GABY Inc. Gabi was her nickname, because we've expanded well beyond the kitchen into topicals and tinctures, and of course cannabis products, and have really embraced that journey and embarked on this vision of being able to change the world. I've raised about $50 million over the 3 years that I've taken over the company. I've put $6.5 million of my own capital in, and the rest has come from outside investors. And we're really growing very dramatically and very quickly. She would be very proud. And in fact, I believe that her spirit is with us. It inspires me every day. And crazy, bizarre things happen to us that are, you know, out of the blue. And so I know her hand is still in it.
Man, you're giving me goosebumps. Wow, I love it. It's actually a beautiful story. So like I said, thank you for sharing that. So let's dive in for whether we have some newbies listening, whether we have seasoned business owners listening. Why don't you tell us about the different verticals of GABY Inc. and how maybe you're different than some other organizations in the market, and how you're set up, just to give a look into your business.
Sure. So I'm going to touch on three different themes. One is our products. The other is the channels that we sell into. And the third is really our strategy as an overall company. So starting with our products, we like to say that we own the whole plant. So if you start from the premise that cannabis and hemp are really the same plant, and scientifically and genealogically, they're both called cannabis sativa. The only difference between the two plants is that one has been bred historically for low THC, and the other has been bred historically for high THC, but they really foundationally and scientifically are the same plant. So starting from that premise, we make products from the stalk, the leaves, the seeds, and the stem of the hemp plant that we put into traditional mainstream grocery. And what we make with those products are frozen prepared meals, and they use the hemp protein, hemp hearts, hemp seeds, or hemp oil. And all of our products have got some or all of those ingredients in it. So they provide a really robust nutritional value to a consumer, as well as they taste delicious, are low in fat, low in calories, high in protein in almost every instance, and generally lower in calories. So all around good for you. Those parts of the hemp plant have been legal for at least a decade in the United States and Canada. So there's no controversy around that, but it's a very important part of the plant. The next thing we do is we make products from the flower of the plant, and we use the cannabinoids that come from the flower, primarily CBD, but also CBG and CBN. And from those products, we make tinctures, we make oils, we make topicals, we infuse food products, including our chocolates, and we sell those in traditional mainstream grocery, but not necessarily all of the tier one grocery stores. So tier one stores would be stores like Whole Foods or Walmart or Kroger's or Publix, etc. And they tend to be the large retail national chains. They have taken a very, very mindful and very cautious approach to stocking CBD products, and they're primarily going with topicals. So we're working on a strategy with those retailers to put our topical products in those retailers. We have a second strategy with our natural, organic, and independent retailers that sell in the state of California to put all of our CBD-infused products in those retailers, because they're moving much more aggressively and they're much more nimble, and they're looking for all types of products, and their consumers tend to be fairly well educated and know what they're looking for, and they want these CBD products in those retailers. And then looking at the other side of the plant, we're also making products which use the flower, which are derivatives from the flower, which things like shatter and oils and resin, as well as flower, pre-rolls, etc., from the cannabis plant, which of course would be higher in THC. And then we're also infusing our chocolates and tinctures and oils with THC infusions as well. So, and we're selling those products in the regulated market. So we're one of the few that I believe we're probably the only company that can really say that we use the whole plant. And we're probably one of the few that can say that we sell into the mainstream market as well as the regulated market. And then another way that we're different is the whole strategy by which we went to market. So we understood, having learned in the traditional space, that it's really important to have good infrastructure. The infrastructure in the regulated market is not as well developed as it is in the mainstream market. So what we set out to do was create a company that could be self-sustaining. So we first started out buying a manufacturing license and infrastructure. We then acquired distribution license and infrastructure. We then acquired a small cultivation facility. We developed a very robust procurement team and procurement desk where we procure flower for ourselves as well as for third parties. And we're now setting up an extraction facility. So we will be able to control from seed to sale virtually without controlling retail. So we procure or cultivate our own flower. We extract our own oil. We infuse our own products. We do our own pre-rolls, or we work with a third party that would do those for us. We infuse our own edibles, and we distribute for ourselves and get the products on shelves ourselves. So we do everything that anyone would need done to get a brand on shelf. The interesting thing about us is that we're not about cultivation, we're not about manufacturing, we're not about distribution, we're about the brand. But in order to get our brand into the marketplace, we felt we needed to control the infrastructure because it was just so undeveloped, so unreliable, and so immature in the cannabis world. So now we're starting to acquire brands, we're starting to develop brands, and we're working with third-party brands to put them through that infrastructure and really enhance our market share in the cannabis world. We've grown our market share in the dispensary world from 85 dispensaries at the beginning of this year to over 200 today, and we're aiming to be in over 300 by the end of the year.
Fantastic. So is the brand of the products, is the food all Gabriella's Kitchen brand and the products are Gabi Inc., or is it mixed? How does that work with the branding?
It's mixed.
It's mixed.
So Gabi Inc. Gabi Inc. is the name of our parent company. Gabriella's Kitchen is the brand that we have in the traditional mainstream market, which is our frozen food line. And then Sonoma Pacific is our flower brand. Sonoma Specific is our topicals brand, and Lulu's is our edibles and chocolate brand. And all of our products have on their packaging that they are a Gabi Inc. Company. So that's how we tie them all together.
Got it. So you kind of did an internal roll-up of several brands to the mothership, if you will.
Correct.
Excellent. And is Gabi Inc. a public or private company?
It's a public company. It's traded on the Canadian Securities Exchange. We went public last year, and our trading symbol on the CSE is Gaby, Gaby.
Nice.
We also listed on the OTCQB, and our trading symbol on the OTC is GABLF, like Friday.
Great. So for the business owners out there, and I'm one of them who has a private portfolio of assets that I keep being approached by public companies looking to roll us up, most of them Canadian. Tell some pros and cons as to when you were private as to going public. What do you like about it? What didn't you like about the process, or where you're at now?
So we went public because at the time that we went public, public cannabis companies were getting much higher valuations than private cannabis companies. So that was the reason we made that decision. My view is stay private as long as you can, but go where the money is and go where the value is. So we were motivated by those two things to go public. The challenge with going public is that you have to really work hard at maintaining your share price in the capital market, because if you don't trade, your share price could drop on very, very low volume. And it gives the wrong impression that people are negative on your stock when in fact they're really positive because they're holding on to it and they're not trading. So it becomes a bit of a full-time job making sure your story gets out there. Now, the good news about that is that it provides liquidity. It allows people who don't have a lot of money to invest to take a small piece of your company and get into the market. It also allows people to find liquidity if they need it. And it encourages people to get into the market because they've got that liquidity where they might not if it was a private company. So that's the advantage. There's value in being private in that you really can fly under the radar. You don't disclose your strategy. You don't have to talk about what you're doing. You don't have to keep the market informed. You just keep a small group of shareholders informed. The con against being private is that you have to keep going back to the well to grow your business. And if you grow rapidly, you have to go back to the well much more rapidly, and you run out of investors, and investors run out of capital because you've only got a small pool of investors. So I think for a growing company like ours, it made sense for us to go public and to live with the good and the bad of being public. We've been able to go back to the market once more. So we went public without doing an offering. We just listed our securities, and then we subsequently raised $20 million through the public channels, having gone public. So it benefited us significantly.
Now, I come from the financial industry, so I understand everything you're talking about. But for the beginner out there, can you just explain, when you're a public company, obviously you have a bunch of shares in the coffer that you're holding that aren't available in the float, or the public float, if you will. Can you tell people how you raise money by utilizing those shares, how that actually works?
So what happens is the shares are held in treasury, which is almost like call it a basket of shares. And when we need to raise capital, we hire an investment bank or we offer our shares to the public. So anyone who is already a shareholder or anyone who wants to become a shareholder buys shares from our treasury, so from our basket of shares that we're holding. And that money comes into the treasury of the company, and we can use it then to grow our business. The second way somebody can become a shareholder is to buy shares in the open market. So if I had shares, or Len, you had shares, or your mother or your brother had shares, and they decided that they needed to sell some of those shares, they could sell them in the open market as if it was a marketplace, and instead of selling clothing or produce or cannabis products, you're selling shares in the market. And somebody who might want to buy those shares in the market would say, well, I'll offer you this much money for those shares. And whoever's selling might say, well, I want this much money. And if there's an alignment in price on the buy and the sell side, a transaction occurs through the facility of the stock exchange, and you end up owning the share in Gabi in that fashion. That share, the money doesn't come to us. It goes to the shareholder who held the share and sold it, but it creates a liquid market for shareholders who hold our shares.
Perfectly explained. Thank you. Okay, so let's back up. Let's back up now to your product line. So you have a whole bunch of different products out there, whether it's food, topical, flower, whatever it may be. So far in your experience, what has resonated with consumers the most? What do you see the biggest spike in sales? What type of product?
Well, so when you say what has resonated with consumers, I'm going to answer that in two ways. So first, to answer your first question, what's our biggest seller? It comes down to flower. And in every market, whether it's a medical legal market or recreationally legal market, flower and concentrates are still the number one seller. And they represent about 75% of the market in every market at this point in time. So we are really a microcosm of what's happening in the national landscape. And we sell between 75 and 85% of our products are flower and concentrates as well.
But and that's for smoking, concentrate for smoking and flower for smoking?
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah. And that's what consumers are looking for, because that's really, those are consumers that are highly sophisticated, who've been using these products and are comfortable with them. As the consumer base changes, more consumers are moving in and looking for non-smoking products. So they're looking for the tinctures and they're looking for the edibles. And so what has really resonated with our consumers is our chocolate. Our chocolate, which we brand under Lulu's, is raw, it's vegan, it's low glycemic, and it's small farm sourced. So it's a really great product. Even if you didn't want it infused, which we sell it in Whole Foods and in other retailers without any infusion at all, it's still a highly differentiated product. If you want it with CBD, it's a very powerful product with all of the attributes that CBD brings to a consumer. And if you want it with THC, we sell it in the regulated market as well with THC. And it's a great thing to take before you go to bed, for example, and you'll sleep very, very soundly. So it's a delicious, healthy product with health attributes just powerfully coursing through it.
And where can our listeners learn more about the company or if they want to try some of the products?
So you can learn more about the company on our website, which is GABYInc.com. So GABYINC.com. We also have an Instagram and a Facebook page. And on our website, you can find where we sell our products. But very quickly, we're in Whole Foods in California, as well as in Arizona, with our Lulu's uninfused products, as well as our frozen products. We're in the cannabis channel throughout the state of California, and we're in a number of independent retail, natural and organic stores throughout California and Arizona with our CBD products. We'll soon be in tier 1 retailers nationally with our topicals as well, so keep an eye out for those.
Excellent. And are you still the majority shareholder?
I still am. And I don't own more than 50%. I own about 26% of the company at this point, but I'm the largest shareholder.
Excellent. And to give us a look, once again, I like to go into the business point of it because we have so many aspiring business owners or current business owners, like I said, that listen. What's the exit strategy for someone like yourself? Is it to be acquired down the road by a big boy as things become more legal, or is it to acquire other companies and just build the biggest company you can?
It's a little bit of both, right? So if somebody made us an offer when we felt we were fully valued, and I believe that will happen because I believe that in the next 2 to 3 years, legalization will occur. And we're really positioning ourselves as the company that the CPD, which is consumer packaged goods. I get my acronyms mixed up between CBG and CPD. And I'm saying it wrong as I said that to you. So consumer packaged goods companies like Kellogg's, Nabisco, Kraft, Heinz, etc., they will move into the space when it becomes legal because 70% of their products are either flat or declining. So they desperately need to become relevant again with consumers. And cannabis and CBD and all of those other cannabinoids are really, really resonating with consumers. And we know that consumers are spending money on these products. So we believe that the consumer packaged goods world will move into the space very aggressively once legalization occurs. And we know that they don't innovate. We know that they buy. So we anticipate that we will be bought when that happens. But if our shareholders decide that they don't want to sell and they want to stay in the business, we want to be able to compete with these large consumer packaged goods companies. So we're building a company that can sustainably compete with these companies if that's the way we want to go. At the end of the day, we're really building the same kind of company. It's a company that is going to have significant market share and that will do a significant roll-up of existing businesses because size does matter. We've got access to the capital markets, so we have access to capital, which a lot of these smaller players don't have. So we're out in the market consolidating, and then we're ready to be consolidated in the next 2 to 3 years as we grow. But if we don't sell into a player, we will just continue to consolidate and continue to grow.
Fantastic. And that's exactly what we're doing with our team. So I'm not going to go into this is about you, this show, but we're doing the same thing. I think the value you just said there was position yourself for an attractive exit down the road, but in the meantime, build a recurring revenue model so that if that exit doesn't appear, you can still build your own monster internally.
Exactly. You said it far better than I did.
No, you're better than me, that's for sure. I'm just trying to get value from you, from myself, selfishly, and the listeners. But that's awesome. So thank you so much for being a guest. Before we let you go, final question. Give us something that you're super excited about, whether it's internal with your venture or in the industry on a whole, and something that concerns you.
Well, it's the same answer, banking. So it is really challenging to scale a business and even be in a business that cannot do banking. So what I mean when I say cannot do banking means we often can't have a savings account because we're in cannabis. Our payroll accounts get closed down. We can't wire funds outside of the state of California. We can't write checks. Our vendors have to pay us in cash. We have to pay our farmers in cash. We end up having a safe in all of our delivery vans and in our manufacturing and distribution facilities to house our cash. And it's really been a challenge. We've been kicked out of several banks when they learned that we're in cannabis. Our COO got kicked out of his bank that he's been banking with for years because they learned that he was the COO of a cannabis company, basically canceled his loan and told him to find a new bank. That is just ridiculous. This is an industry that is state legal, and we are complying with all the legislation in the states in which we operate. And yet we can't do banking. We can't borrow money. We can't deposit money. It's ridiculous. What excites me is that the House of Representatives has now passed the Safe Banking Act. It's waiting to be passed by the Senate. It's got bipartisan support, and it will allow federally regulated banks to do business with cannabis companies that are complying with state legislation where cannabis is legal. So what concerns me and what excites me is exactly the same thing. It's not safe to do business in a cash-only environment. We worry about the safety of our employees at all times, and it's really hard to scale a business where you can't do banking. So hopefully that banking legislation will pass very, very soon, and it will free up our ability to scale in a significant way and do business in a proper way.
Perfectly said. And you know what? This was one of the best interviews I've done. Super interesting, super unique story. You should be super proud of what you have built. You already have a monster and it's only going to get bigger. So congratulations, Margot Micallef. Thank you so much for being a guest on our show.
My pleasure. I'm always excited to talk about our business and the industry. So I've had a lot of fun. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And we'll see everyone next time on the Pot.Live podcast. If you're listening to this podcast, that means you like digital media. And where is the home for all digital media content in the cannabis industry? It is Pot.Live. That's right, Pot. pot.live. That's where you'll find all of the podcasts that you like, just like the one you're listening to right now. All of the video content that you love, and all of the written articles, trends, news, whatever you need, it's all right there. Entertaining and educational, the home of digital media content in the cannabis industry. Visit us at pot.live and download the free app at your Google Play Store and the Apple iTunes Store.